I warmly greet the Deputy Secretary General, Nestor Mendez, the President of the Permanent Council of the OAS, Ambassador Victor Fernandez, the volunteer group monitoring the Inter-American Democratic Charter, the delegations of the member states, and other authorities present. Since we are celebrating the Inter-American Democratic Charter at this meeting and the proposed topic relates to communication technologies, I would like to begin with a reflection that may not be very novel, but contains ideas that are often forgotten. As any political scientist knows, democracy is inseparable from freedom of expression. For Kratos, power to reside in the demos, the people, the latter must have the ability to express their will without coercion. If freedom of expression were not guaranteed, we would have no assurance that your will directs the acts of government. In this regard, it is not a coincidence that the formation of democratic regimes in the modern world has been accompanied by the concurrent development of communication technologies that contributed to creating a public space where different voices competed to open political debate. The role of the printing press in the democratic revolutions of the 18th century is well known. But the development of mass communication technologies did not stop there. By the end of the 19th century, cinema arrived. At the beginning of the 20th, radio, and shortly after, television. In these cases, politics has always known how to control these media and use them to its own advantage. The nature of these technologies facilitated control, as the mass audience was on the side of the receivers, but not of the producers and disseminators of information, who continued to shape a very small elite and therefore easy to co-opt. However, this began to change towards the end of the 20th century, when we started to become familiar with a tool called the internet. This technology promised to massify not only the receiving audience but also the sender. This democratizing power, completely unprecedented in the realm of communication technologies, culminates in the social networks of our 21st century. I observe with great concern the reaction of a significant part of the political power to the effects of this communication democratization. This reaction manifests a desire for political control over this technology. To a certain extent, their arguments do not seem very different from those presented by absolute monarchs in pre-democratic centuries, when they explained the necessity of censorship and control of publications in the name of the truth that they claim to safeguard. The novelty of our times is that all of this is often done in the name of democracy. In short, for political power to increase its control over communication technologies would be a democratic necessity this time. What a curiosity! It is still surprising that politics positions itself as the custodian and guarantor of the truth. Indeed, we know well that politics and truth have always coexisted in a tumultuous manner, from ancient times to the present day. Socrates was killed by politicians. Plato believed that there should be philosopher kings to avoid the evils of error and lies in politics. However, the ideal regime he proposed was anything but a democracy, as Popper well understood. It is also not a coincidence that politics ended up defining its own autonomy through Machiavelli, becoming independent from morality and recognizing the political necessity of lying. In the 18th century, the enlightened fought against the political authority of their time, which they accused of keeping the people in ignorance. The 19th and 20th centuries were not better. They were the centuries of political ideologies, understood as mystifying and deceptive discourses, and totalitarian regimes became true machines of lies, as Hannah Arendt also observed. By the way, it has always caught his attention that sincerity has never been considered a political virtue in the West. I do not believe, however, that it is necessary to go through all these roundabout ways and make such tight reviews to confirm that politicians have justly earned the reputation of being friends of lies, not only in our time, but in general. That politicians habitually lie is something that citizens know from their own experience. So, with what right does political power today claim control over social media in the name of the fight against misinformation and lies? Political power, in a democracy that is more than just a mere label, must guarantee the broadest possible margins for freedom of expression. This guarantee begins by not intervening, refraining from prescribing, controlling, censoring, and directing the expression of citizens. The only legitimate limit should be placed on expressions whose purpose is the instigation, promotion, or coordination of crimes. But this is already covered in our penal codes. As far as truth is concerned, this is an aspiration that is fulfilled in free communicative exchange. Any obstacle that political power imposes on that free exchange is an attack on the conditions for the possibility of truth, even where what is supposedly being prevented is falsehood. Who saw this masterfully was John Stuart Mill, who asserted that all censorship involved robbing humanity, because if what was censored was true, humanity effectively lost the truth. And if what was censored was false, humanity lost an opportunity to reaffirm the truth in its clash with error. In light of this, it is curious that certain judges have recently invoked the same $1,000, to justify censorship on social media, a true absurdity. Fake news is undoubtedly a harm, but it is much worse for political power, which has always had so little commitment to the truth, to intervene in the realm of social media and the internet as a judge of truth and falsehood. This damage is not hypothetical or potential, but rather extremely current. We just heard Mark Zuckerberg say that a certain country forced him to censor freedom of expression during the pandemic, not to promote truths, but lies. We have also recently heard Elon Musk denounce a certain international organization that allegedly blackmailed him to censor profiles for political reasons on the social media platform X. Not to mention countries in our region that have currently left their users without access to social media. Freedom of expression is a human right recognized in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration and Article 13 of the American Convention. Both texts are very clear and establish the broadest margins of freedom of expression for human beings. In addition to fake news, the other argument that is often used through the power of politics to undermine freedom on social media is what they call hate speech. This term is becoming a brilliant excuse to demonize and silence any type of opinion that does not please those who have the means to, as Michel Foucault would say, order the discourse. In this case, coercion penetrates even into the realm of feelings. You hate. If you say that, it can only be because you hate, and because we decree that you hate, we claim our right to forcibly shut your mouth. What a display of love. What a level of arrogance it takes for someone to become a judge of something as impenetrable as another person's feelings. Thus, we have seen how politics has armed with institutions very similar to the ministries of truth from Orwell's dystopia. In Argentina, we had one of those that persecuted political opponents and ordinary citizens, like the one speaking to you right now, simply for contradicting the prevailing ideological dogmas. Let me provide an example. If a citizen claims that they do not believe self-perception determines in any way a person's sexual identity, that citizen automatically becomes a promoter of hate speech and must be censored and even re-educated by the new ministers of truth and love. This example is not hypothetical. Unfortunately, it is real. By saying this, I was not only persecuted years ago by an agency of the Argentine state, but my social media accounts were also blocked, and I ended up on a blacklist promoted by the United Nations. Today, you are wondering what public policies and state practices can be used to combat fake news and hate speech on the internet. I would like to say that freedom of expression has never been free of mistakes and confrontations. Freedom has never been free. However, the price of the risk of spreading lies and expressions that we dislike is much lower than the cost of involving politicians in the delicate field of freedom of expression. In terms of freedom of expression, the best public policy is the one that removes politics from public communication. We do not believe that politicians should be judges of what is true and what is false, and we tremble at the mere thought that they might consider themselves judges of love and hate. Thank you very much.